Or with more expensive.
And I was very glad after freshman year, they dropped the requirement of taking ROTC.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
evening. Call the meeting to order.
7:30, good time.
Oh, we can't keep reminiscing?
Well, we have 15 minutes. You could keep reminiscing.
No, let's get these meeting minutes off the plate table.
This is the Zoning Board of Appeals. It's Thursday, December 21st, 2017, 7:30 PM. Welcome to Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street. Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy Hanukkah and Happy Holidays.
Like once.
So we have, and Kwanzaa. I'm calling it
Festivus.
Merry Hanukkah
Festivus.
Kwanzaa.
Festivus.
Okay, we do have some minutes to look over. There's a suggestion on the floor that these are complicated minutes having to do with the 40B project known as Wildflower Meadows down at 15 Great Road. And if we start with July 20th, I'd like to get all the comments in, but I think I'd like to reserve voting on them for another meeting because we have some absent members tonight, one of whom, Cheryl Cowley, chaired part of the meeting since Jeff and I had to stand down. So I'd like her to be here to weigh in on the comments. But let's go through them and see if any of the board members have specific comments that I could incorporate, and then we get one set of revised ones to look over and vote on next time. So July 20th, 2017, please. Comments? Comments? No. Okay, so Jeff had some. Again, I'm skipping the 7:30 meeting of 12 Robinson Road because Cheryl chaired that and she may want to review those minutes, and I was not in the room. But the 7:45 PM discussion on 15 Great Road, if you all remember, there were several of the owners at Wildflower Meadows together with developer Mark Gallagher and the other developer of the abutting property, which was Mark Brooks and Dave Hale, and they were all in the room, and there was a lot of conversation and controversy relative to interior finishes and changes to the plans and fences around the property and landscape completion and completion of the project
Bond
generally.
and issuing a bond for,
And issuing a
Yeah.
bond, yep.
Doing work.
And then parking on the roadway. We had a follow-up meeting after these minutes and after this hearing, after we had given Mr. Gallagher some marching orders, and the group assembled, the owners of the condominiums, had come to some agreement, if you all recall, about landscaping and other things. And we are advised that almost everything has been put to bed satisfactorily. But because this may come up again in the future, especially with interior changes to the units, if you recall, there was some prohibition under the 40B to make interior changes without building permits, and some of that's been done without building permits. And there was some provisions in the bylaws and the regulations of the condominium development that changes had to be approved by the condominium management. So I think this is going to come back at us, so I want to be sure the minutes are right. And if you haven't looked at them, please do so for the next meeting so we can all talk about it, especially those of you that were here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We also are short some members tonight, so I'm going to need a voting alternate 1, 2, 4, on the hearing that's coming up at 7:45. I'll have to figure out, flip a coin or something.
I went last time if you want to pass over
Okay.
to that. I'm fine with
Thank
that.
you. And the August 17th minutes also.
That was our first meeting.
That was just an update on the senior housing bylaw. I guess further update is, as you know, it passed at town meeting. There is a not a formal moratorium, but a refusal right now by the planning board to hear any applications yet until they further refine what their criteria and parameters are going to be for these projects. I guess several have come to light, and so they don't want to open the floodgates until they're sure they know what they're going to do underneath the bylaw. So that will be interesting to follow. Let's see. Anything else on this one you want to discuss? We had another lengthy session with Wildflower, and again, I'd like to postpone making a final decision on those, and they've been read and reviewed by all of us and any input.
Can I say one thing in regards to that? So as part of sort of that subcommittee that met with Mr. Gallagher, there was discussion about having plantings and such that I did want to make a note that when I drove through at the end of October, there were still a significant amount of plantings that need to go in. I think they were eventually planted, but my concern is it was so past the planting season that there's a possibility that we could have some trees and shrubs that don't make it because it was so significantly late in the planting season. I don't think they were installed until November sometime.
Thank you for that. I think we should get that in the minutes, so that we get word back to the building inspector that maybe
Okay.
we
And
ought
I did take photos the day I drove through. There was a huge amount of plantings in one staging area. So you could tell they significantly hadn't planted a good amount of those houses.
You mean they had brought them on site?
Yeah, they were on site at the end of October, but they had not been planted yet. I would just hate to see the snow melt, the spring come and have,
Well, hopefully they're in the ground, they should do okay. Because we had a nice warm November, so they had a chance to get them in the ground.
Yeah,
okay, good.
but it'll be a good thing to keep our eye on. Thank you for bringing that up.
Put it in late, because
Do they?
when the spring comes, all that moisture's there, and they just take right
Okay,
off.
that's great.
Okay, so that takes care of the 2 sets of minutes. We have a posted hearing for 7:45 that we need to wait for because the butters and others have been invited to hear it, and they may still be coming in.
Do you have to say anything about the hearing that was posted, but I guess withdrawn? Joe Patel?
No. No, whatever he's withdrawn isn't before us tonight.
No, but it was in the paper, that's why I was wondering if you had to say anything.
Oh, where was that located?
I saw it in the Independent a couple of weeks running, this one and that.
What was the property?
God, I don't remember.
Is anyone here for anything regarding Joe Cataldo? Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Since the 8 o'clock posted item is a discussion, I'm going to raise it now. There is a comprehensive permit which has been granted to Kimball Farm Village on the Common, a 40B project in Littleton, Mass. I think you're all aware of where it is, off Great Road, Littleton, sort of past Bob Moran's going out of town, and on the left-hand side there. That was approved as a 108-unit comprehensive permit, and it has been extended from time to time, over and over again, for various reasons. Jeff and I recuse ourselves from that hearing because we've had prior dealings with the applicant, or the prior owner. The prior owner. That was supposed to come up today for a review again of discussion about whether another extension quarter would be granted. And it turns out that Cheryl Cowley, who chaired in our absence, is not able to come tonight, and the applicant requested, as a result, Cheryl was requesting that the board not hear it in her absence, and so the applicant was asked to request an extension. So I don't believe it's a conflict for me to act administratively, just to alert you all that we're not going to have that discussion item tonight. And there has been a written request by the applicant to have a discussion relative to extending the permit one more time. Under the 40B comprehensive permit laws, the board is obliged to hear that request in 20 days unless the applicant waives the 20-day requirement. So given that we've asked, essentially we asked for the extension, and given that we would prefer not to do it in between meetings and postpone it all the way to the January meeting, we asked the applicant to furnish a letter requesting action on that and then waiving the 20-day period of hearing and extending that till January 31. So what we're going to do is have the discussion on Kimball Farm Village on the Common, case number 695A, at the next meeting of this board in January. Okay?
Can we be sure that Shelley gives us the minutes from that previous discussion?
Yes, that's a very good idea.
Because there were a lot of issues at that point, and I want to make it clear.
Will do. So I think we just need a vote of the board, and I think I'm going to stand down from the vote, as should you, so I'll take the 4 members who are here just to vote to approve that extension with the waiver of the time period.
Okay, move we approve the extension of the discussion to the January meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then I'm just going to make a note of who's here, because she might not hear that on the tape, right? Anybody have any news? No? Come on, there must be something going on in town that we could talk about.
Christmas.
At the tree lighting ceremony,
Yes, tell us about that.
we were prepared to plug in our sound systems and our lighting systems for the Christmas tree lighting. And to our very deep surprise, the electric light company had removed the sockets. There were no sockets to plug into.
Are you kidding?
Oh, no, we're not kidding. And fortunately, Matt Pinard was there, and he called over some
Electric
of the...
fellow.
He called over to the fire department that came and actually had a generator that we had to run off of for the...
No kidding.
No kidding.
To light the trees?
No, the trees are
So the
hardwired.
amplification for
But
the.
but the music and the
ceremony,
microphones
Oh, my
and the
goodness.
lighting that were just for the ceremony, not the tree
Yeah.
light, we had to run off generators.
Well, thank you, Matt, for saving the day, and Alan for
We miss Savas.
do.
Speaking of the fire department, when is the fire station looks like
They're
they're.
getting ready.
Getting finished.
About a month, he said.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. It does look beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they'll have an open house.
What?
I'm assuming they'll have an open house.
I
so we
hope
can
they'll
all go
have an
check it
open
out.
house, yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand there is a search on for a new chief, police chief.
Police chief.
There's a search committee that's been formed to find a new chief.
They had a, at Donald's last week, I think last Friday, they had have a cup of coffee with a cop.
Oh, yeah.
And I go in there every morning to have a cup of tea and a donut, and the whole place was covered with, filled with cops. I took my donut and somewhere else. I just wanted to.
You didn't want to have coffee with a cop? Were you hiding anything? How about that poor lady that shoplifted in a store where they were having?
Oh, when they're having.
Yeah, a couple hundred cops and she's shoplifting.
Yes.
Tea at home, it's cheaper.
You didn't hear this?
No.
She went into shoplift in a
$5
store, and it was, happened to be a day that 100 cops had volunteered to take a kid from an impoverished, section and shop with them. So there were more than 100 cops in there.
That's funny.
Excuse me.
No.
All right, one more minute, and then we'll start.
It's amazing, some people just don't think things out.
Alan, is that a permanent thing, or are they just replacing them? The light,
Well, then, maybe they'll put some new ones, permanent ones in next.
I assume some conversations have started. I don't know the
But
details.
I noticed the feeds for the lights themselves came out of the ground.
Yeah, they hardwired them in, so they could be flipped by a switch, but there were no
Yeah.
outlets. So they had to
But
remove.
probably when they would change it around, they said, well, we don't need these little plugs that are sitting
Yeah.
up around, we'll get rid of those.
there's tons of stuff, the third Thursdays, well, that happens at Fate Park now, but
Yeah.
they have
It's
small
just-
things
It's just
there.
one of those, whoopses. Someone had a good idea, we don't need these anymore, we'll get rid of them. My new fancy dancy carriage house isn't quite done yet. It won't get finished in
Not
spring.
done yet? It's
It won't
looking
get finished in
good.
spring, it's too cold to climb a ladder and work on the outside.
That's looking good.
I might be using it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 7:45 PM. I'm going to open the hearing of case number 890A, 1115 Taylor Street. The petitioner, Nathan Skinner, trustee for Diane C. Skinner Trust, requests for a variance pursuant to Section 17326 use regulations for a proposed conversion from an existing two-family home into four rental units. Mr. Skinner, the way we operate is that you come forward with your plans and your discussion, and you let us know what's going on. Anyone who's here for this hearing is welcome to step up and see any of the plans as he lays them out. And after he speaks, then the board will ask questions, recognized through the chair. And after the board speaks, everyone in the room will have a chance to speak to the application. And then Mr. Skinner can rebut or answer any questions and then the board will deliberate. So come forward, please, and we're pretty informal here.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, since I don't know anyone in town to speak of, well, in particular, we've met, Mr. Gould and I, but I just thought I'd put something in context, so it wasn't I was driving through and got lost. So I was looking for something to bring for, like, fancy to show about, how I was going to support this, and then I ran across a Christmas card, and it says it's 4 days before Christmas. This is my sister and I, about 1,000 feet from here, with our horse and our dog Tippy, and now our Newfoundland's not there when, I don't know how old we were there.
That's
Even though
great.
you don't know me, I feel like I'm home. And for the same reason that salmon swim upstream, that's probably why I'm here. There's a building. You probably know more about the building than I do. It's not too impressive. Anyone I've talked with about it says why. They start with that. I don't get into too many details with it. But at the end of the day, it's been a lodging house. It's been drug-related in terms of helping, in theory. A lodging house. It's zoned as a two-family in a business district. And I'm asking that we make it a 4-unit so that we can bring the unit size down to realistic. What I did was prepare that particular market a little bit by going to, well, that's ahead of myself there.
While you're looking, I just want to stop you 1 minute and ask you to introduce yourself for the record. We're on tape.
Nathan Skinner.
Thank you.
Yes. So could I hand these out?
Yes, please.
The source is down the bottom on the right. It's from this town verbatim. Nothing's been added except my proposed column. Oh, I'm forgetting to have all that stuff I submitted
Can
before.
we share and you can give the people who are here in this application
Anyone else
copy
like
as
one?
well?
Yeah, it's not a duplicate, I'm not happy to give up.
Except for the top piece.
Yeah, except for the copies.
You got two there or you want to share?
Okay, hopefully I have one left. Oh, actually, I do. Would you like one?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Whoops. So, your copy of the map may be upside down since I stapled them all upside down. The point of this is just to show that if you're familiar with the properties and they're all labeled on the map, I didn't annotate the map because it's your map, with the addresses. And the bottom line is there's a collection of homes there in a business district that have, over time, had multiple units with 5 units, 5 units, 3 units. My next door neighbor has 3 units and a business. The other next door neighbor, and then there's the post office. And then there's a liquor store with 3 apartments in it on a very small lot. We've got a large lot, and the building is such that to divide it into, to rebuild it as 2 units, leaves one huge unit with like 8 bedrooms and another smaller unit that, which is still large, 1,500 feet. That there's no premium for extra rooms in a rental, is my experience. So by bringing the per unit size down, we'll get better qualified tenants. The building will cash flow. We won't be giving away free space, if you will, but that also increases the budget, and it's much different to take care of landscaping for 4 tenants than it is for 2 financially, and snow removal, and all the other ancillary expenses. So what I've tried to address is that it doesn't in any way, because we're not changing the lot, we're not changing the footprint, we're not changing anything outside, except making it, my goal is to make it one of the nicest properties, and that comes down to money. And 4 units makes it entirely different financially than 2. And that's what kind of enables things to go forward. Without that ability, it just doesn't work. And then and that's where we are. That's where it is. it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for years, if it ever worked. And I hope I'm lucky enough to be able to do that, and it's a long-term project. Our business model is to buy and hold, and it's not even on the table for selling. We don't have an exit plan.
You want to walk us through the interior
Sure.
bit of, also, I'm just, which lot are you on this plan? Just trying to get my bearings here.
Yeah, it's upside down, but it doesn't help any at all. It's 41.
41 is, okay.
So it starts on the corner and goes from liquor store and 3 apartments and some chickens to the post office, then our property, and then homestead kitchen, and then the VFW. On the other
So
side,
Homestead is that number 40,
Right.
and
VFW is 39.
40,
Oh, I've seen that.
42 is the daycare, what's 42?
Well, it's the VFW now.
yep, in the
Used to
gray,
be the daycare.
42, or
39.
39 is the VFW.
39 is the, yes,
What's 42?
I don't see
Arms
42.
Post Office.
That's
Oh,
all.
post office, yeah.
And then the liquor store.
And 3 apartments. The gray is business, the gray across
Yeah.
is the business district.
And then across the street from you, 24 is what?
Isn't that Dave
Erickson's.
Erickson's place?
That's
That's
Erickson's,
Erickson's?
old train station.
And 25?
I think it's part of
Is
that. isn't it?
Erickson's as
Sort of
well.
Erickson's, too, yeah.
And 25-2 is still Erickson.
I
No,
don't know
that's
that
the
property at all.
water, the water supply
Okay.
place. They've been before us.
And
for-
then over here is the gas station, that's,
Yeah.
On my table, I only added
Yeah, number
rental
4 is the
units,
gas station.
housing.
thank you. And then just right here behind you, what's 44? That residential?
That's vacant, owned by the water department. There's a well there.
And the whole field behind there, there's a well.
That's, makes sense. I wonder why the water department had it.
And 44, okay, thanks. Thank you, I just wanted my bearings. Okay, now walk us through the interior
Okay.
proposal.
The first floor would be, goes from, well, there's you walk through the front door, and off to the left is the entrance to the first floor 2-bedroom unit that goes all the way back except the rear door, which would be an entrance and stairwell up to the second floor. So it's, the first floor is the entrance for the second floor rear and the first floor, and to the right is the front porch. As you go up the stairs, there would be 2 doors, one to the third floor unit and one to the entrance to the second floor unit. On what I submitted in my application are some just 3D graphics that give a nice rendering. And that is a 1-bedroom unit, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And then the balance of the rear there, if you will, that smaller section, is the upstairs for the second unit that entered on the first floor. So the second floor has a front and a back.
So the back unit is 1 bedroom,
1 bath, or it's really a studio is what I was going for, but I can't confirm with the walls yet.
kitchen, bed and bath.
You know, once approved, then I'll be able to finalize and get my 3Ds done.
Unit 3 is a 1 bedroom.
Yeah, they're calling it,
And unit 4 on the third floor is.
yeah,
really
right, which is
2
different than my original, the designer changed the numbering.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the fourth floor, so the fourth floor begins on the second floor landing, which would take into account this nice big window to let natural light into the stairwell, into the, and that goes up to what's currently 4 bedrooms and a bathroom, and what was a kitchenette.
You see the exterior elevation showing the windows and stuff there.
And I think my original application had the original drawing, and then this is
Yeah.
kind of proposed.
Yeah.
The sizing isn't, for some reason, too accurate. Her software evidently didn't take into account that there's stairs and a landing, but we discussed that after these were printed.
So these revisions don't change the exterior dimensions of this house at all?
Correct,
Not even the stairs?
correct.
So we're not going to be looking for any zoning variances to sideline setbacks or front line or anything?
Specifically a goal.
We're just looking for a use variance to the, from a, over being allowed two-family to a four, that's the only thing you're looking for? Existing first floor, existing second floor, and then the third floor is all
It's gonna be
bedrooms.
installing some exterior fire escapes?
It exists
Oh, it already exists.
from the third floor down. And you actually can walk, there is no third floor rear, so the third floor can walk out onto a roof. And there is a fire escape there.
Is there a second floor rear right now, or are you gonna be building that?
Stairwell, or,
No, there is a.
there is
second floor.
right now it's a
second floor,
pass-through. You walk the whole
Okay.
through.
Okay.
So
any-
I tried to do in the proposed, that really the only change is adding some kitchens, 2 kitchens, adding some bathrooms, to bring it to like today's needs. And I guess it gets labeled whatever's to be determined, but everything else stays the same, except I'm guessing the taxes will go up, because it's gonna be, it would make sense to. So it's very, very little change.
Board members, any questions?
Assume you're putting some sort of parking lot in?
Yes, at least 2 spots
There's not to be.
Per unit?
per unit, so 8. Yeah, I think there was 10 or 12 there before, but it's gonna be all redone. And the horseshoe driveway is gonna be completed. It has 2 curb cuts now, so there'd be an in and an out would be a goal.
And did I see on the septic it was installed in 2002, the current septic?
I don't know when it was installed. I think there were some modifications. Jim at the health department says it's approved for 6 bedrooms.
Do you know how old the system is? Like, will it need to be replaced in the
Only
next?
would be on the thing.
Okay.
I don't think it went in 2000. I think it's probably older than that.
Julian, this plan looks like it's the septic plan. Do you see a date on it?
Yeah, it said there was a stamp on the corner.
I
That
don't think it was
said-
ever constructed.
Maybe it was
The reason I'm not more knowledgeable is because Jim said it's not a problem. If you don't go to
Jim
change
Gillespie told me.
anything, you don't.
So this
So,
is
actually, I'd like to
stamp
put
on
in,
this one?
I'd like to
That
put the
says
concept out that we're reducing bedrooms.
2000.
One second, I have a board member, yeah.
There's some data down here, it says July 11th, 2002, is the only reason why I asked if it was.
Somehow or other, I think this was installed, Jeff, but
But why did he have so many problems with it?
I think he ended up having to do it. I think he got it approved in 2002. I don't know when it was installed, but it was, I think he got a septic loan for it. I don't know that for a fact, but obviously whatever happens has to have a working septic system. The applicant has stated that Jim said it's approved for 6. He means Jim Gareffi of the Neshoba Board of
Yes,
Health.
yes.
And if it's approved for 6, it has to be a currently working system with 6 bedroom. And I think,
It has to, I have had it looked at. They said it obviously just got turned off one day, probably when the electricity was cut, and it looks fine. He said, we're probably gonna have to change the sandbags in there, I'm like, 'cause sand gets old, and he's like, well, I gotta charge you for something. So, but it's gonna, whatever it takes, it's gonna, I'll obviously, that's fine. That's just a hope.
This is the old Ernest building?
that's the URNC building that was, it was under
Yeah.
litigation for a number of years. It was condemned, it was closed down. The town was in Superior Court for a number of years till it was ultimately lost.
But it's officially listed as a 2-bedroom, even though it was used as a rooming house.
It's officially listed as a 2-bedroom. It was used as a rooming house. The history is, Mr. Ernest tried several ways to get all of the people that he housed there legitimated. So he would go back and forth between saying you could have 4 unrelated adults in one section, or you could have a rooming house or a lodging house. And he tried to dodge every bullet, but he housed more than 8 unrelated adults, I'd say, on a regular basis. And as the applicant said, I think his history was that he used to house people with problems and disabilities and economic disabilities, so
In recovery, in theory.
in recovery, in theory, yeah. Okay.
And so just to be clear too, you are not part of the family that owns this, you are just looking to purchase it from them? Or you are,
That would be incorrect at several levels. I am Hugh Ernest's son.
Okay,
We've been estranged, I don't know what term you'd like to put on it, but when I was 12 years old, that relationship was over. And so I've only seen him maybe 5 times in the last 40-something years, one of which was today. And he's had a stroke. He's in a nursing care. Excuse me, up in Lowell. So family doesn't come up, but there's there's a relationship there. We moved on, had our own family.
okay.
The
I'm just trying to understand the dynamics of who owned it and who let the house get to where it is and where your
Absolutely.
relationship to that is.
My answer to that was the bank, working with the bank to buy it on a short sale, because they were owed a great deal of money on it, and they were not going to foreclose until Hugh wasn't able to make a decision. And so they were happy that an offer was made on the property.
I think, to put it in perspective, as you know, Hugh pretty much represented himself in the various actions he had with this town, and was successful each time. The courts were very lenient and generous toward him, but he had no resources to clean this up. Finally, the Board of Health had to condemn it, and it has been condemned for a very long time. I think, as Mr. Skinner says, the bank was reluctant to foreclose on a condemned building, and knowing Hugh's history for being litigious ad nauseum. So I think Mr. Skinner bought it on a short sale, is what he's describing. I don't know.
Essentially, it became clear that there was nothing there for him. The only reason he was holding on to it was to continue his normal MO. And there was a different dynamic, and that was me. And so he agreed to sign a short sale.
And that's your concern, is
Yeah,
that
it's
the
like
same
how-
MO shouldn't continue?
I'm just curious how sort of this happened, if someone, obviously it's costing you money to be able to do all these things, but at what point did the pipes burst and all those things, at what point and who allowed that to happen so that the house becomes in this state? I guess was my question.
There's no intermingling or at all.
Okay.
This is a 100% transaction. Our family trust buys real estate. We prefer to buy it low. In this case, we were going more on emotional. My sister and I are the only decision makers, and this is a decision we made. We like this idea. Some people believe in real estate, it's the greater fool theory. He's sitting here.
And this road,
But it is we're looking for it, it's a passion. I mean, we're building, this is where we grew up. And we'd like to improve this town. We'd like our legacy to be that we improve the town. We know the former legacy. That's not our concern.
in this row here, rental LV, that's the number of units in these buildings?
That's what the records of the town, that's what these records on the town website say. So that's where it came from, but, yeah.
Okay, so there's a...
So I don't believe it necessarily it's totally accurate. But
According to this, there's a 4-unit on 3 Taylor Street, a 5-unit on 2 King, and a
Exactly.
5-unit on 2 Harvard.
exactly, they're all on the map there.
So this would not be the only 4 in the area.
Absolutely not.
That's
That's definitely, that is the purpose of this, is to show that it's not only is it not changing anything, that is that little marketplace, this gray area in the business district. It's not,
Okay, our bylaws allow for conversion of older homes into a 2-family, but is there any provision for allowing a 4-family?
No, and in fact, our bylaw prohibits multifamily, so he would have to be coming in under a use variance. And I will read the building inspector's comments as part of the board comments into the record, and then I'm going to ask for the abutters' comments, please. 11 Taylor Street, the applicant seeks a variance from 17368, which prohibits multifamily dwellings in the town of Littleton. Specifically, the applicant seeks to convert the existing 2-family structure into a 4-unit building. The applicant correctly indicates the structure is located in a B district business. The applicant provided a narrative describing the intended conversion of the structure. It's the opinion of this office that the applicant has not provided evidence owing to circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located, such that a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance or bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or appellant. And he's got to provide that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance or bylaw, and therefore the variance request should be denied. That's the building inspector comment, no further comment. Let me ask if there are any abutters to this petition and anybody who wants to speak. Ms. Bell, identify yourself for the record.
How you doing? I'm Chuck Bell. I'm a butter. I own the post office beside you.
Oh, great.
My concerns are you're changing the use. And when I bought this property, it's zoned for business, and there's businesses on either side. I am not a proponent of having more tenants in a business area. I think it takes away from me and from my use, and conflicts that may, in the future, develop with tenants and people that you've got coming in. So I personally am opposed to what you're proposing, because it affects me directly. All right? No ill will,
No,
I
no,
get
no,
it,
no.
everybody
May I
needs to
address
build.
that?
I'm all for building, making things nice and better, I'm all for it. I just said it affects me in a negative way. Buying my property with knowing the use and what was going on in the area, that's why I did it.
I think that makes total sense, and I'd like to address that if I can.
Yeah, through the chair, please, go ahead.
Oh, to you? Okay.
Well, you have
Yeah.
to be recognized through the chair, and then you can speak to me, to him. Through me to him,
Sorry, okay.
yes.
I think that's a great concern, and I feel exactly the same way. I tried to address that subtly in my application, and the reality is such. First of all, let me back up a little bit. We have other
You can turn
apartments.
and face him.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it this way. Sorry. And I don't like to use Boston as a comparison, but that's where we've just renovated 4 units. The buildings in Boston get reduced in size. And so we now have 4 units and 4 tenants. What I tried to address in my application is if we keep it as 2 families, I can't control who the person that rents the unit that has 8 bedrooms rents to without getting into trouble. So they are going to be the ones that are your neighbor. And they're going to have 8 bedrooms. And I know who's going to try and rent it for me, and they won't tell me the truth when they sign the lease.
Oh,
And
I
I'm going to end up
agree.
in
I
trouble. I'm going to
understand
end up
that.
in court, because that's not what we want.
I understand that.
We
but
want smaller units that are manageable, and we will have less than, I would expect, I can't say, that's not, but most likely we'd have 6 people living there. And I'd say we'd have more than 12 living there if we don't make the units smaller. Keep in mind, we're taking rooms and making them a kitchen and a dining room. We're taking rooms away. We're going from, effectively, even though it's a 6-bedroom, for septic purposes, it's like 10 bedrooms is what he was renting out at $500-600 a room.
Illegally, not.
Oh, correct.
Actually, I just
And
want to
maybe it was or
correct you,
isn't.
it wasn't illegal. He was allowed to do that
Oh, really?
under the mass law that says you can have 4 unrelated adults, no more than 4 unrelated adults.
Because
Meaning you
and
can
it's
have 4 in a unit, and then he went and called this a lodging house. So under the lodging house regulations, as long as he registered with the town, it was illegal when it became condemned. But prior to that, it was not illegal. That's the problem.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it was, and it's business, and that's a business. Put in an inn. I just know how to rent to really good people that pay the rent on time. And in over 20 years, never had 1 month of vacancy, and I've never had 1 week of delinquency. That's who's going to live here. That's why it'll be a positive addition to the town, because you have no tenants now. And then with 4 apartments, it just changes my budget, if you will. It lets me put up a 20-foot Christmas tree in the front yard. I like wow factor. I like people to say, wow, that's really nice. That's the neighbor I will be. And my goal would be that you agree with that. And 2, that our other neighbor will take down half the fence. We'll give it a year. That's how I'll know it was successful. That he'll say, you know what, we don't need this 6-foot fence between the 2 properties. Although maybe start at the, where the property is. Take the first 100 feet away. And I want to improve the ground, it'll be 2 units, it's going to be you cut the grass and I'll do the snow removal. 4 units, I have a
You're
contractor do the
speculating.
snow and a contractor do the.
You're speculating. I understand what your intentions are, they're all good intentions, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's gonna adversely affect me with tenants over there. I have a problem with tenants on the other side. They come in, I had to put a fence up because the post office asked me to. Because there are dogs coming in there, there are people using that place whenever they want. It gets a little out of control, you know.
You mean the units with the liquor store?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. It's
Yeah.
been-
I'm talking about an $800,000 rehab.
I love it. If you're gonna make it nice and you're gonna do everything, but I would want you to incur the cost of a fence on your side. I know you don't want it, you don't
That's
like
fine.
it.
I don't want a fence, but I mean, it.
But there are things you have to consider with your abutters, that I'm beholden to the post office. When things don't get done, or there's people parking in there, or things are going on, and I have to listen to them. I'm a landlord to them.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I've gone in and talked to the postmaster, it never occurred, it didn't occur to me to reach out to you first, I apologize.
oh, that's all right, no,
Well,
the
I would've-
postmaster's a
I
good
would've-
guy, he's a
these are-
really good guy.
Yeah.
And he gives me a lot of leeway, and he's a really good guy. He's not the kind to complain. But when a dog runs in the back doors of their post office when it's wide open, it's a problem. You know, then I get the call, so.
Well, I will say this, I'm willing to withdraw my application if you're not in favor of it. Because
Well, I
I would
can't
never want to
see-
start a relationship that it can't go anywhere. I'm not coming to this town to do anything other than to improve
Okay,
something.
so
I'm
let
not asking you to
me
withdraw.
move on. Let me move on. Any other butters want to speak to the application?
I'm not in a butter, but I'd like to speak. Is
Please,
that okay?
and just your name and where you live.
Yeah, Carolyn Mueller, East Roxbury Drive. I guess I look at this from a historical perspective, and some of us do think it's an impressive building. When I first read the hearing notice, we just assumed that it was going to be torn down, and we were going to appeal to make, hopefully you could make something look historic, because the flavor of the depot proper hasn't changed much. So when I found out you were going to keep the building as it was and renovate the inside, I was excited.
Right.
Because it's Littleton's only second Empire home. It's the only example we have. And again, that whole area really hasn't changed a lot, and we're trying to maybe bring back some of the flavor. I think we've lost our colonial flavor, but the 1880s flavor of the town. So creative solutions like this, 2 Robinson Road was the same, 12 Robinson Road was the same thing, to make multi-units, and I think it's a creative solution to keep some of what, through the master plan, we've heard that people want to keep some of that character. So I would hope that we would, seriously listen to this proposal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, geez, I'm feeling better.
I don't wanna, I am not here for you to withdraw an application.
I'm
That's
just
not
saying,
what
I
I'm
couldn't
here
imagine
for.
getting into an adversarial situation, that's why I left.
No. I
27 years
wouldn't,
ago.
that's not my intent.
Okay. No, I appreciate it, that's a good, you have great concerns, and I
Okay,
hope I
let's-
addressed it by
let's keep
saying.
Let's keep it through the chair. One more gentleman, do you want to speak to the application?
May I address?
One moment. Board members, you want to comment back?
Well, I think one of the questions I would ask of the first gentleman who spoke is, are there any mitigating things that the client, the petitioner could just do that would make it easier? You mentioned quickly a fence, to put in something that would basically prevent the residents from wandering across your property without having to go through the, climbing over a fence. That might make it solve some of your issues with the concept. I like the idea that, it's an old building, and I really like that you were basically just sprucing up the outside. So from the outside, all you're gonna notice is.
I'm allowed to do.
Well, but, people do other things.
Legally, properly.
But it'll just look like a bright, it's been spruced up and it'll look nice. And what you do on the inside, most of us driving by don't really care.
Fair enough.
And I understand that the economics of, trying to have more tenants that you can control the cost on a little better.
So, Mr. Bell, you want to respond to the,
Yeah,
what?
that, you're.
No, Mr. Bell.
Oh, Mr., oh.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to having something proposed, and see a real conceptual drawing, not just that. I don't care what you do really inside. And see how it affects me and how it affects the town and what that property was zoned for. I'm not gonna jump to decisions. I can't say what will be approved by the town, won't be approved by the town. I know you're changing the use a little. Let's see what you come up with.
So, can I just ask a question, whether it matters? And it's not really our purview, but I'm curious. Do you have a price point for these units?
Yes,
Can you tell us, will you share that with us?
$200,000 a unit.
Or are you going to sell them as condominium units?
No, I'm saying that's my budget.
No, I meant, what are you going to be renting them for?
Oh, yes, yeah. Nope. Where are my notes? Yes, I know it off the top of my head, but the two-bedroom between 15, is roughly 1,100 feet, between 1,500 and 2,300, which I'll address the range in a moment, if I could. The one-bedroom for 1,200 to 2,000. The two-bedroom, 1,500 to 2,300, and the studio, 800 to 1,300, which is quite a range. It ranges from $5,000 a month to $7,900 a month. In my experience, my profit's always in that last $1,000, which is to say, if I have a two-unit approval, I'm going to tear off the leaking roof and put on an asphalt. I'm going to tear off an 80% good slate roof that's made out of rock. That's, it's never going to get old, but it's more expensive. I can tear it off, and instead of putting on a $50,000 repair, I'm going to put on a $40,000 new roof that's only good for another 30 years, because that saves me money, because I'm not going to get my rents. I want to fix the slate roof, which is it's a beautiful thing. Next door has a beautiful slate roof. For some reason, 150 years on slate doesn't age slate very much. I find that funny.
So,
I can put in a cheap kitchen, or I can put in a nice kitchen. I can go up to Hunter's and pick out some nice things, which is what I did today. By the way, I shop local. I want to keep the wood. Wood is the most expensive exterior. I also would be happy to put on a $60,000 cement board exterior. As a two-family, it's going to get plastic. And I say that not as a negative. That's what I'm talking about. I can't spend $200,000 in it. Now the small unit's not $200. That's going to be $150. The other one's going to be $300. The larger one.
so you have an obligation here to get a variance to show us that owing to the soil shape or topography, there's a hardship, financial or otherwise. And I think Ms. Mueller helped you make some of the case by stating that there is some merit to retaining this beautiful structure in this location in Littleton. And you're making the other argument that the cost of retaining this beautiful structure and bringing it back to its, maybe better than its original beauty, but at least something that will last another many years. in that
At least
location.
50, at least for my children to be sitting here asking, to put in a pool or something. But that's what it really comes down to, the economics of it. And I had something else I wanted to add to that, but, and putting in the driveway, and the parking, and the landscaping. I have to have more money to spend, and it's that last, taking it from the minimum $5,000. I mean, that would give me 2 units to rent at $2,500 a month. The only person that's going to spend $2,500 to rent one of the 2 units isn't the tenant that is going to improve things, in my experience, in my experience.
Okay, let me go back to the board and see if the board has other comments. Al?
When I first read it, it seemed like it would be an improvement to that property. I didn't see any particular negatives. It seems like you're reducing the density in terms of people living there. it sounds like you would really improve the interior of the space and make it more pleasantly dynamic. So I didn't see any objection to it in my reading or in hearing what you had to say about it. I would like to actually, can I address Mr. Bell out there?
Yes, please.
What kind of, is it a business that you have out on that property, abutting this
Yeah,
property?
it's the post office.
Oh, you own
He
the
owns
post
the building,
office?
yeah.
Okay.
May I address that one more time?
Let me finish with the board, please.
Is this a deliberation now, or just still
No,
asking
I'm
questions?
sort of polling the board
Oh,
for
okay.
comments and questions. Jeff?
I don't understand the legal basis for us giving you a use variance for this. I think that anyone who objected could sue the town and win. And that doesn't mean that I don't support what you want to do. But the things you've described, your economic imperatives, there's no legal, in our giving you a variance, there's nothing that there's no recourse we have to make you perform any of the things that you've said to us. So, for instance, you say, I'm going to restore the slate roof. Well, you get involved in it and you don't restore the slate roof. There's nothing we can do. We've given you now a variance, a use variance. Use variances traditionally, our board has been slapped down in giving use variances because it's considered a prerogative of zoning of the planning board to establish, the community regulations. So regardless of the, make it a two-family. I mean, there's a lot of, we're not really even, I hope you understand that we really can't give any weight at all to your financial decisions because we have no control over them. You can do anything you want once you get a variance. And on the face of the statute, there's nothing you've described other than your financial imperative that because another buyer might come and restore it. The homestead property is a good example. It was derelict. They've made something out of it. Another buyer might come along and do that too and save the property. So I don't consider you the last best necessarily, to Ms. Muller's point, I live in a historic thing. I made it into two-family, like a lot of people do here. So I guess I'm just concerned that it opens our board to, not a criticism, but legal issues. And because on the face of it, any person looking, that's not interested in this, but looking at it, can say, my God, that guy, he was able to break zoning. Like, why him?
Rod?
Yeah. My initial reaction was negative, and it would have stayed negative if it was in the residential zone. I feel a little better that several units have 4 and 5. However, I think what Mr. Yank says is true. I am uncomfortable saying that we can go forward like this because the town bylaw clearly says no more than two-family. So, what are we opening ourselves up to if we were to go forward? So, in many respects, the fact that building gets rehabbed, that maybe gets rehabbed better as a 4-unit, that's a positive. But I still am not real comfortable about saying that we should approve it because of the bylaw.
Jillian?
I think what he's doing is beautiful, but I have to agree with some of the other members that I think you could still make it beautiful even if it isn't a 4-family. May not be as economically return on you, but I think it can still be done, and I think I think it opens up the door with 4 units. That's a lot, and I'm just curious why that is typically a zoning issue.
Well, our zoning bylaw doesn't have any provision for more than two-family.
Right, okay.
The new bylaw requires, the senior housing bylaw or the senior residential friendly bylaw requires a minimum acreage of 5, which
Okay.
this isn't going to
So
make.
the zoning was put into place in the 50s, and so things
Right.
prior to that were more than 2 families are.
Are grandfathered?
Are grandfathered,
Okay.
yeah.
John?
Nothing else to add.
I have some thoughts, and I've been giving it a lot of thought because Mr. Skinner had approached me informally early on, so that's why I have a lot of the history, and I've known Hugh Earnesty for years. These are thoughts, random, no particular order. First of all, he has a property that is unique to the district because he has a property that has housed 10 unrelated adults or more at various times through most of the history that I remember living in this town for over 30, almost 40 years now. So it is unique in that regard. It has never been used or occupied or used as a two-family ever. I think that the reduction in density is a positive thing. I think that we can establish that this property is unique and that there would be hardship of some sort in not granting the variance, in the sense that you're either going to get a property that remains in its current condition or isn't brought up to its historic character. As Ms. Mueller said, there's some benefit of having it historic. I also think, and this is troubling me, this bothers me all day long, there's a case law, it's, who's the owner of the Honda dealership? What's Eric Bach? Famous case of Eric Bach, and it says you can have as many kitchens in a property as you want to. There's no restriction on how many kitchens you can have. So there's nothing to keep the next owner, whether it's Mr. Skinner or the next owner after him, nothing to keep him from taking a house that has 8 bedrooms in it and putting a bunch of kitchens in and not complying with zoning and essentially having 2 or 3 unrelated families in each of the 2 units. I am motivated by his proposal that what he wants to do is create 4 decent rental units, discrete rental units, have all of them comply with the zoning bylaw to make sure that they're safe and sound and there's emergency access for everybody, and deliver to the town at least 2 that are going to be truly affordable units for people that need them, the one bedroom type of unit. It is a nice old historic property. It doesn't make sense to develop it as a two-family, and I think the way Mr. Hennessy ran it for so many years, you're going to have a de facto multifamily without the control over it that we can establish if we find the hardship and then put conditions on the variance.
I hear a lot of what-ifs, and all I know is that the town has a history of granting variances to people who come before, come before us, and, Will and Me Financial this, and the minute they get the variance, they sell it, and something else happens. So my concern is that all these what-ifs, there's nothing to say that, I can imagine you're going to do it, but to say, well, that you're the only person who would develop this property, it never went on the market. There was never any, sort of sorting of people's intentions. There may have been a person who wanted to live in it as a single family. We don't know. So yeah, there are what ifs.
There was
but-
actually discussion throughout the town about the property.
Oh, I'm sure.
What kind of discussion?
Oh, what people would do with it if
Yeah,
they
what
were
they would
able to
do
get
with
it.
it, and if it was
Yeah.
available. There were people that were saying it depended on the price of it, if they would be able to, you know what I mean? All well knowing that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to that property.
I mean, the homestead, once again, the homestead thing is there's more of a need for that, like a live-work property, than some random rental properties. I don't, I guess, I don't need to rebut everything in detail. My concern is that at its face, there is no basis for a use variance.
Yeah.
Good try. I mean, and I think your plan is great, but I think you'd have to do some more work and try to, we just passed an inclusionary zoning thing, maybe there would, something
Well,
could work
so
in. or-
maybe that's something we work in.
but I think it's more than just us giving you a use variance.
What if the use variance had conditions on it that one of the units remain affordable under the HUD regulations?
It's a possibility. But even so, that's something that, is that something that we're allowed to do?
Why not? We can condition a variance. Whether or not he gets it counted in the count, I don't know, but maybe the applicant would be willing to offer that up, and maybe that makes a nice proposal. I personally see enough hardship in the presentation for use variance, and the hardship to me is, it is surrounded by other multifamily dwellings that have either grown over time topsy-turvy or been grandfathered before 50s, who the heck knows? But there definitely are 4 and 5 bedrooms all around it.
But no, they're not all
Yeah,
around
look
it.
at-
Sanderson, Taylor, There's a few.
on the railroad track.
There's a few.
I mean,
All
what's the
around
other
that
option
corner.
of, what if you did a business on the lower level to eat up some of that space and then 2 units above it?
Well, that's why I keep on talking about Homestead. That's why I think there's more of a need for that.
That's not what's
Then-
in front of us, though.
I know.
mean,
Well,
hear
but
you.
I'm
Yeah.
saying, you're talking about what if.
Those are economic
What if, what
viable
if, what if?
options.
Yeah. I mean, I think what if there's other people who could own this property who would conform with the zoning?
Okay, you mentioned, can one unit be affordable? Is this something, as much as I don't want to see another one, could he approach it as a 40B?
Yeah, and he could do it as a friendly 40B, absolutely, and
Yeah.
probably get
Yeah.
this result.
Because then we would have assurance that one unit's affordable, 25%.
And,
It would
and
go on our roll and,
what would have to happen is that, I think we could do it as a friendly 40B. I think we can continue this hearing, allow the applicant to go back to the selectmen with a request for approval as a friendly 40B, and see if we can get this 4 units approved that way.
so what the 40B enables us to do, because we're under a responsibility to set aside 10% of our housing stock in, and you're developing 4 units, which will mean that we have to come up with an affordable unit somewhere in the future. And so, and we're also going outside of zoning to do this, so it's not a good deal for our town, because it's gonna be costing us in the future to provide an affordable unit by law. So what a 40B process would allow us to do is to look at your proposal in a way that would sustain, the pattern of housing development that we need to sustain to avoid problems in the future.
And the 40B would allow approval of 4 units as well.
Yeah.
So the plain English of what was just said is that if you build 4 rental units, if you're approved to build 4 rental units, whether they're rented or sold as condominiums, the town has no control over what you rent them for, and we have 4 additional, well, we have 4 additional.
4 additional housing units,
4
so we
additional
need to
housing
come up
units
with
in our
one.
housing stock. If we send you to the 40B route, one of those units has to be dedicated to be affordable in perpetuity and rental in perpetuity. Then we can add 4 units of affordable units to our housing stock.
Would the building need to be ADA?
I don't think so. And the thing is that the affordability is not necessarily low income, but moderate income.
Right now, if I tore down the building, put in another $60,000 and tore it down and left it vacant for 10 years, my cost to carry is $800 a month, plus taxes.
So what is this, what are you telling us this for?
The idea of converting it to something that I don't understand. I don't know that
So
process.
what
I
the
did
board-
read Mr. Kimball's 40B project.
That's a different,
What the board has said to you, though, is they're not influenced by the fact that you chose an investment.
Yes.
And now that you've chosen that investment, you're trying to make the most money out of it that you can. This board isn't influenced by
Fair
that.
enough, fair enough.
And we don't really care what your carry costs are. You didn't have to buy this building.
That's, agreed,
So,
yeah.
and I don't mean to be blunt, but that's.
No, that's
the
absolutely
short
correct.
answer.
That's why I tried to show that there is a different reason. It's more of emotional. It wasn't about, I did make a mistake in talking about numbers, and I'm regretting that now.
But
I was
so-
just trying to be logical,
But
because
so what Rod has suggested, and it's probably a really good suggestion, is let's continue the hearing for a month. Let you get an audience in front of the Board of Selectmen, requesting their approval for this as a friendly 40B, and then we can bring it back as a 40B. And quite frankly, I don't think it's going to take, months and months and months of decision-making. If the selectmen say they like this idea, you come back, we approve it as a 40B, and you have to satisfy the state that one of your units is affordable as that term is defined. That's not so objectionable. The numbers are going to come in pretty close to what you wanted anyway.
I agree. I guess what I would say is, and it's just, I made a commitment that I would not come in and be negative about anything. So if the town wants it to be a 2-family with 1,600 square foot units, then that's what will happen, because then I'm doing what the town wants. I honestly believe I'm improving that building, that property, and make it a wow building in this town, instead of being a two-family to just split in half.
And nobody's
and-
arguing that, that's why we're suggesting
and
the
so-
40B route.
But then I'm not, I don't, it's unknown to me. Now I don't know anything
But
about that, so I was just like.
our variance
I don't need
is
the
granted to
four-family.
the property,
It
not
just-
to you.
So-
That's the issue.
So let me give the applicant at least the benefit of polling the board on their decision-making, because I've always done that. And we did segue into deliberating. I told you we weren't. But let me poll the voting members of the board as to which way they're leaning
I'd be in favor
of a
the applicant's proposal.
use variance.
No.
Jeff is no.
I would be in favor, but I have to agree with Jeff. I think there's an issue going down the road because the bylaws clearly says two-family max.
And John?
No. Again, I think it's, the bylaw is very straightforward, and
Can
the
I
way
add one?
around it is to, you want 4 units, you make one a 40B, and everybody's happy.
And you don't find a hardship?
Not really.
You don't find a hardship?
No, I mean, the only hardship is he can't do what he'd like to do, and, that's not really.
And that makes sense, and I'm fine to do that. I guess I'd only add that the definition of multifamily is, when I was a mortgage broker, a multifamily was 5 units or more, that's the commercial. And a 1 through 4 is a conforming loan. It's not considered multifamily. So even from my perspective, to be called a multifamily is inconsistent, because 1 through 4 units.
It's only about, I just want to take.
So, I mean, the lingo is confusing me a little bit. I'm not judging anything. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying.
Well, on the other hand, in the building code, it's segregated 1 and 2 family.
Yes.
And then everything else beyond that is beyond that, and it's a different code, a different level of construction. You asked about the second means of egress, which I was looking at, I didn't see it on the plan.
Didn't see
Actually-
the exits out.
Oh, now we're.
But there would be, well, we don't need to get into this because that's not the issue in front of us, but,
Yeah.
there are significant differences in building a 2-family than there are a 4-family. There are fire separations, there's, so.
It is more expensive.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend this hearing to our next meeting. We'll have to figure out the time to give the applicant a chance to explore a 40B approach.
I'm going to ask for a second in 1 second. I just want to give the applicant the benefit of the Littleton zoning bylaw definition of,
The way I read it, I think it was 173.6 gave that concept that it wasn't allowed in a residential to convert. The term conversion only related to, the bylaws related to, and I've never been in front of the board
Yeah,
before,
but
so I don't
there
know how to
wasn't a
speak, and I
breakdown.
apologize.
You're
for that.
doing well.
Okay.
This is a tough thing.
The way I read it, obviously I may have a slant to it, but is that referred to residential. And there's a little 1 there on conversion, and when you go and read the detail, it says, that doesn't apply to, and that means on your chart of what's what, that's for residential, not for business zoning.
If you
And so that
look-
in business, in my opinion, you had that ability, or I probably wouldn't be here.
if you look at the use schedule on page 14 of the zoning bylaw, it says multifamily dwelling, and it says not allowed in any of the districts. However, I just went to the definitions, and we don't define multifamily dwelling. Now, it is presumed that multifamily means more than 2 because we clearly allow 2-family dwellings. No, we don't allow even
No,
new 2-family
we allow
dwellings. We allow
conversion of
2-family conversions. Yeah.
Older homes to two-family, I
Yeah.
think that's it.
Yeah. Correct. So the question is.
In residential is what that.
Even in
No,
business,
any
in any
commercial.
category.
And in business.
Not allowed
So
to build any.
multifamily is
But the
2 or
question,
more.
but the
basically.
question, and it's a decent question Mr. Skinner has, is
It's-
what's a multifamily?
It's not a decent question.
Well, that's a decent question. We don't
Because you're an
define
attorney, because you're an
multifamily.
attorney.
We don't define
thought you were an
multifamily.
I'm not an attorney, I'm not an attorney.
I think it makes sense to move, to vote the motion to continue for 1 month. During that month, I think it makes sense for you to approach the selectmen. Because if the selectmen think this is a good use of the property for a friendly 40B, I don't think it's going to be a long uphill battle to get you approved as a friendly 40B through this board.
And I'll just add that if Mr. Yates is not interested or thinks it hurts the town, I have no desire to do it.
I don't think it
I've
hurts
also
the
got the building department, which I've met with
Mr. Bernier?
Mr. Bernier,
Bernier.
Bernier, that's why I'm Roland. If he's not in favor, I don't want an uphill battle. I'll make it a two-family. It's already a
I
two-family.
think you're
But that's not
you're
what's
mis-
best for the town.
You're misinterpreting the negative comments. One comment from your neighbor was, he wants to make sure that there is some control over the families that are going to be living there so that they're not bothering him. That's a reasonable concern on any neighbor. What Mr. Bernier and Mr. Yates and the other board members who agree with Mr. Yates are concerned about is that in a strictly technical manner, we don't find hardship. And the zoning board can only grant you relief on a variance level if there's a hardship. So they're saying there's no hardship. That doesn't mean we don't want a four-family there. I think we're all saying that
Yeah, I
a
think we love what you're
four-family there
proposing.
would
It's
be a
just-
great use
I paid-
and a great reuse of the building.
I can't claim hardship then because I paid $300,000 in cash already. I haven't gotten a mortgage yet.
But
So
the
how can I claim
hardship
hardship?
isn't a financial
Yeah,
hardship.
it's
The
never a
hardship
financial
would-
hardship.
The hardship would be if you're,
I mean, so I lose money for a long time. That's not a hardship
It's
either.
not a
That's not a
financial
hardship?
hardship.
Okay, then I'm just mystifying. It doesn't make economic sense as a two-family to
But
be
that's
nice.
not-
I can make it a two-family, but it won't be nice.
so the economic hardship.
As nice, I
would
should say.
be-
I'll still do the best I can, it just won't be as nice. It will be an
Much
asphalt
as I,
shingle roof.
much as I hate to say it, if Mr. Ernest were sitting in front of us, he probably would establish the hardship because he's in a position where he can't fix it up without a hardship. But you bought it.
That's
You bought
systemic.
into the problem. I mean, that's a problem.
No, I agree.
But I don't think you'll be turned away at the selectman level. This town is looking for rental housing. They're looking to add as many affordable units into the marketplace as they can. The one-bedroom prices that you already proposed are very close to what the state affordability price is. So I don't think it would change your dynamics very much. I think
And
it's worth
in
taking
your
the
ongoing business, it
extension.
might be interesting for you to explore, because the 40B is a state imposed process to override local zoning, which
I
is
suspect-
exactly what you would be doing in this case. So it's really what you're slotted into.
And it gives us a legal right to say, okay, 4 units.
Okay.
So let's continue for 1 month. I have
Well,
a
I-
motion on the floor to continue for 1 month. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
We'll
Appreciate
see you
it.
in January.
I did take it down, sir.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh, sorry, Megan, we have to continue to a time certain, so you're at 7:30 on, what's the third Thursday in January? Somebody got a calendar out, please?
Second.
Anything else? Are we done?
We're done, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move that we,
ZBA 18th.
okay.
January 18th,
It already says ZBA meeting.
Mr. Skinner,
The third,
January
third Thursdays
18th at
already.
7:30.
I will not be
myself
here
or
for that
something.
meeting.
Okay. Motion to adjourn,
I so move.
all those in favor? Turn the switch.